I've opened up my heart. I'm at the start. I save the world. I save the world.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good
I
afternoon, good
save
evening.
the
All
world.
depends on where you are at.
I save the world.
uh, it is always good to be able to have the opportunity to speak. And I just want to actually just, give a huge thank you and a huge gratitude to um, Reverend Tony, who's, definitely our leader of this organization and is just a remarkable, individual. And to also, just for gently reminding me, Reverend Vincent, you need to speak again. It's been a while. We need to hear your voice. So I just want to let you know how much I, appreciate that, Reverend Tony, and just appreciate, just the fact that, you know, you set the tone of how important it is to have different voices and different perspectives regarding a course. And I think that's what makes our organization such a remarkable one, because we do have so many different perspectives, so many different voices, and yet you really encourage us to all bring that to light. So just very, grateful, for that. So thank you. Um, and I always just, feel that it's always, for me, it's always a honor and just a privilege to be able to speak. Um, because, I learned a long time ago to not take things for granted and to really, appreciate those moments that we have and just cherish it. So I'm always grateful for that aspect of it. And the other thing that I always do is whenever I'm giving a talk, it's important for me to ask for guidance, to turn it over to Holy Spirit to help guide me on, what is it that I'm guided to share, to experience in my talks regarding an aspect of it. So I already knew that, and I had an idea that I wanted to talk about my trip in Europe, and definitely was inspired by Reverend Peter's talk a couple of weeks ago, who also talked about his trip in Europe. So that definitely, inspired me to do something similar. But I wasn't sure which direction that I wanted to go, regarding that aspect of it. And so I just turned it over to the Holy Spirit to ask for guidance regarding that aspect of it. And so the Spirit, guided me with the title, Recognizing the Holy Spirit Along the Journey, Finding Miracles in Every Detour. I'm like, okay, all right, let's see what that means. And what is it that Spirit has in mind for me to, chat about and to be able to share my experience regarding that aspect of it. And so I am going to, share my experience and my journey, in Europe. The reason why I, went to Europe, had specifically had to do with the fact that we were going to be participating in the Gay Games in Valencia, Spain. And so I felt that was a good opportunity just to go and just visit the other aspect of Europe as well while I was there, Amsterdam along with Spain, and then also, with London. Because the last time I was in Europe was in 1998. I was very young. I think I was in my, mid to late 20s or something, regarding that. So it's been a long time since I had been back to Europe. And so I figured, okay, yeah, it would be a good time to go back. And so Reverend Peter, mentioned the fact that, yeah, we're going to put this team together to the Gay Games. Would you like to come? And of course, immediately I'm like, yes, I will, definitely join you in the trip to the Gay Games. And so I was very, excited about it regarding an aspect of it. But things happens, when you least expect it. Regarding an aspect of it. And so at one point, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to go. I never shared this with Reverend Peter because he would have killed me if he would have known that I might not have been able to make it on this trip. But, a lot of unexpected issues came up, for me, you know, a few months ago and stuff regarding that aspect of it. And so I thought that I was not going to be able to make the trip, because of that. And then this is when, spirit steps in. And when you just realize that even though you may appear to think that you may have some obstacles or appear that there may be some type of detour, Spirit already has it set for you. They already have a path, and I think Spirit already knew, like, yeah, no matter what's going on, you're going to make it to your trip to Europe. So it's going to happen. So don't, like, stress over it and stuff regarding that aspect of it. And so I felt that energy, and I felt that, and so I just trusted. And so I think that's part of the reason why I never shared it with Reverend Peter, because I think deep down I knew that Spirit's going to make sure that this trip happens in some form or another, regarding an aspect of it. And it's just a reminder how Spirit is always, with us, regarding that aspect of it. And so the Course reminds us of this: light does not attack darkness, but it does shine in a way. If my light goes with you everywhere, you shine it away with me. The light becomes ours, and you cannot abide in darkness any more than darkness can abide wherever you go. The light becomes ours. Wow, what a beautiful message from the Course, that the light becomes ours. And so for my trip, in Europe, it started off, with me, of course, getting my tickets and all that stuff. And then I had a connecting flight in Boston. I'm someone who prefers to have direct flights or nonstop flights, because I hate layovers, because things tend to happen whenever there's a layover. It's just such a thing. So but in this case, I had to do that. And then, of course, there was a delay for my flight from San Francisco to Boston. Believe it or not, it was not because of San Francisco, because normally it is because of San Francisco. It was because at that time there was bad weather happening in Boston, and because of that, they were not allowing any planes to land in Boston. And so my flight just kept getting, delayed. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I'm going to make my connection flight. There's just no way with the way that things are checking out. So I went up to the agent, talked to them, and then they were like, "Oh, no, 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 I think you should still be fine. We'll let you know if you're going to miss your connecting flight and all this stuff." I'm like, okay, fine and stuff regarding an aspect of it. But then it was getting later. Then in my mind, I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not going to make my connecting flight. It's just not going to happen. But for me, the miracle that happened in that moment was I didn't allow myself to get frustrated. I did not become impatient. I just took that moment to just, like, you know what? Things happen. Don't worry about it. Don't stress, and just be there in the moment. And so I took that time to actually reach out to some friends that I haven't even spoken to in a while, just to kill time while I was there at the airport. And so this felt so good to not allow my ego to go crazy and to start, like, yelling at the agents, trying to find out all the information, and just say, you know what? We're going to get on our flight when it's time for us to get on our flight, and don't worry about it. And that felt really good, to be able to be in that peace of mind. And a lot of that does have to do with trusting in the Spirit. So anyway, so I got on a flight, got to Boston, and then of course I missed my connection flight to Amsterdam, because that was my first leg was of my Euro trip was into Amsterdam. So I'm like, okay, fine, I missed that, went to the long line to talk to an agent to get my new flight, because they had to rebook my flight, regarding that aspect of it. And then even in that moment, when I was finding myself to become a little annoyed and a little agitated, I just turned it over to the Holy Spirit and just, like, trust, and just like, okay, be patient, Vincent. Things will work itself out. And then for me, the miracle thing, that happened was, I got up, spoke to an agent. I might have actually deciding to call them. Spirit in me, something said, Vincent, just call the airline instead of waiting in that long line. It may be much quicker to be able to get someone, which I did. And so then they did get me on a flight. But unfortunately, the next day flight was already booked. So I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be, in Boston for longer than I, expected. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I took the one, the next day. Well, fortunately, I have two friends that actually live in Boston. And so I was able to reach out to them regarding that aspect of it and able to connect with them. And for me, the miracle in that is I have not seen them in quite a while. And one of them specifically was dealing with cancer for a while and went through treatment. And I've not had a chance to be able to connect with them since they went through their treatment. And to be able to have that moment, since I was, had it stuck in Boston, to reconnect with them was a beautiful experience. And then the thing that came to my mind, and when I reflect upon it, I'm like, okay, Spirit, you had something said already. You knew that I had a connecting flight in Boston, and I had these two friends that I haven't seen in a while, specifically the one who had cancer, that, you know what? You need time to spend with them, to time to reconnect with them. And what a beautiful experience to be able to do that, to see them and just have that moment and for them to just take me in because I literally didn't get in until like midnight or 1 o'clock that morning, and they came and picked me up at the airport, and it just took care of me while I was laid over there, and that is how spirit works. If you allow yourself to stay in the moment and listen and trust, and even though it may appear as that obstacles or detours may be happening, but there's a reason for it. There's always a reason for everything. And it turned out to be a great experience to be able to spend time with those individuals. And I'm always grateful for that. The Course also reminds us never accord the ego the power to interfere with the journey because it has none. And the journey is the way to what is true. Leave all deceptions behind and reach beyond all attempts of the ego to hold you back. And so when I planned this trip, one of the things that I wanted to do was to go to Amsterdam. I've been to Amsterdam before, but one of the particular reasons why I wanted to go this time is back in 2014, I met this person, this guy on one of the apps where we, started chatting. This was back in 2014, and we never met in person. But all these years, we stayed in contact with one another, through, text, through WhatsApp. And then once in a while, we called each other and talked to each other over the phone. And so I figured, well, I'm going to be in Europe. This would be a perfect time to be able to meet them actually in person. We never even did FaceTime before. So besides us sending each other's pictures, I really did not know how they actually, really, looked. And so I'm like, you know what? This would be a perfect time to go and visit them since I'm going to be in Europe. So I, made plans for that. But the thing that was going on and was happening is that they were not sure if they were going to be able to see me and hang out with me because their mom is not doing well. Their mom has been having a lot of health issues, and actually put them on our healing list, a couple of times, regarding that aspect of it. And so they weren't sure if they're going to be able to have time or not to hang out with me because they were taking care of their mom. And I understood that, and that made perfect sense. And I told him, yeah, I'm still going to come. And if I'm able to see you, that would be great. But, I understand the, situation. But of course, Spirit, it was like, no, this is going to happen. And, and his mom happened to be in good health that, week when I got there, to be able to hang out in Amsterdam. And that was just another wonderful gift, another wonderful miracle to be able to take place. But the other thing that really stood out for me is him and his partner picked me up at the airport. And when I met him, I mean, it literally felt like we known each other forever. It was such an easy interaction that surprised me. This is someone I never met in person. And to be able to have that connection automatically. It was remarkable. And it's just a reminder of how spirit works and how relationship works. It doesn't matter where we are at. We find that connection every single time. And I found that with him and his partner. Of course, him I spoke to a lot through text messages, but I never really his partner at all. And they took incredible care of me when I was there. I stayed in Amsterdam and they lived like an hour outside of Amsterdam, and they would come in, pick me up, and take me in to show me around. And just the connection that I had with them was remarkable. But the greatest spiritual experience I had was when I met his mom, because as I mentioned, she has been, ill for so long. And then when I went to their place and met his mom, that moment we had such an incredible spiritual connection. She was very spiritual, and we just connected instantly. It was like, wow, this is just, it just blew me away. How can you connect with someone so quickly who you never met before, and that an amazing moment of that huge connection that we just had? And we just spoke for a while, and it just felt so remarkable. So even though, my friend thought that it may not happen because of his mom illness, Spirit already had the journey set. The path was already in the works that no, you're going to get to Amsterdam. You're going to meet this person who you've known since 2014, have great connection, and more importantly, meet his mom, who has been ill for so long, and have a connection with her as well. To bring healing in that moment and in that space was an experience that I will always be grateful for and hold to heart. And then the Course also tells us this: God's oneness and ours are not separate because his oneness encompasses ours. To join with me is to restore his power to you because we are sharing it. I offer you only the recognition of his power in you, but in that lies all truth. And the truth of the matter is, and as I reflect on my journey and my experience, and Amsterdam was great, and then going to Valencia, Spain, just took it to even another level. One of the things that I've always wanted to do was to learn how to speak Spanish. So I've tried on and off, but never really had a chance to stick with it. But I always thought, well, maybe if I ever immerse myself into it, it will, happen. So I made my reservation, at a Airbnb. Not in the area that I thought I did, because I thought I made it closer to where our softball fields were, but it was a little farther out. But you know what? Things happen for a reason. And so the area that I stayed in, not one single person spoke English. And I'm like, okay, I don't know much about Spanish, so how am I going to go ahead and do this? And it was a incredible experience to learn how to navigate, to speak, and to communicate when you don't know their language. And the connection that I made with those individuals was remarkable, and how open and how accepting they were. Even though I didn't know their language, but I tried. I tried to communicate the best way I could, use Google Translation, whatever. But it was an incredible experience to now understand what it's like when people come to a different country and they don't speak your language. It opened my eyes of, wow, we truly can make connections no matter what. And it showed. It was a remarkable experience. And then the other experience that I had in Valencia that was incredible, the games that we played, there were two individuals. One was a staff person who came up to me one day and said, by the way, you have such a good energy. I have a sense that you guys are going to do so well at this tournament. I'm like, what? Wait a minute here. He just said that. I'm like, okay, well, fine, thank you. I appreciate that. And then there was this another individual after our game on Thursday night, because we had to pay later than we wanted to on Thursday night. The gentleman comes up to me and says, "Father, I've been watching you all week. Your spirit is amazing." I'm like, "What? Wait a minute here. I've never met this person." He just been seeing me play and just said, Something about you is just, your energy was just incredible." I'm like, "Wow, what a remarkable experience to be able to have." I'm like, it just blew me away. And then the next day, that Friday, the day of when we won our silver medal, and I shared this with Reverend Peter. When I stepped out, the building where I stayed in, when I was waiting for my lift and Uber, right across the street, there was this black cat sitting right there, just the middle of the sidewalk. And this energy hit me that you're going to have a great day. Something about that cat, that spirit, I'm just like, what? It just hit me, and I, I don't think I've ever experienced anything like that before, and I did. It was one of my best days that I had playing softball in a long time, and I felt that energy from that cat. It is so remarkable when we allow ourselves to stay in the moment, be present, and know and trust that our journey has already been set. And it was set. And it was such a remarkable experience. And the other thing that was so remarkable, because throughout my trip in specifically in Spain, I actually had a fraud alert on my debit card. And I was like, holy crap, how the hell am I going to, get through this? And you know what? I didn't let that impact me. I trusted that things still was going to work itself out. And it did. And it is just so remarkable of how, when you just trust, things will work out the way it is. And don't let little things like that to detour you of what spirit really wants for you. And Valencia was one of the most comfortable places I ever felt. Not once have I ever felt like I had to look over my shoulder or worry about anything. It was such an incredible experience that it reminded me that this is what this world is about. Just for you to be your true self, no matter where you are at, and to feel that comfort. And I was just so grateful for that experience in Valencia. And of course, very grateful that, we took the silver medal to it. That was the icing on the cake, but it was just a beautiful experience. Ours is simply the journey back to God, who is our home. Whenever fear intrudes anywhere along the road to peace, it is always because the ego has attempted to join the journey with us and cannot do so. You are invulnerable to its retaliation because I am with you. On this journey, you have chosen me as your companion instead of the ego. And in my journey, I have joined with the spirit. And my final journey was to London. As most people know, I love tennis. I love being able to watch it. And doing my research, I realized Wimbledon was happening at that same time when I was traveling Europe. And so I made a trip over to London because I wanted to, experience Wimbledon. What a remarkable experience to be able to be in that environment. And the thing that got it even started, one of the things you do, you have to buy a day pass. And in order to do that, you have to get there real early. So I got there like at 7 a.m. in the morning to stand in a queue, or their lines, as it, our lines. When we say line, they say queue. I had to, get in that. And a lot of people was already there. And so I got there like 7 in the morning, they, lined you up. So I got in my spot. And there was these two older individuals that were, right in front of me, regarding that aspect of it. And so then at one point, the um, husband, decided that they needed to go do something or whatever and all that stuff. And then It was just me. And then I was like, wait a minute, I need to go to the restroom, or as they say, toilet. But I have all my stuff and I don't really know anyone. So I asked the wife, I'm like, do you mind taking, watching my stuff? And she's like, oh yeah, go right ahead. I'm like, wow, this is a total stranger. I did not know them. And they were like, yes, we'll go ahead and do it. And so then they did. So she washed my stuff. So I went to the toilet, and then, on my way back, I decided to take, pictures, and then decided to go get a snack. Then I came back. And then when I came back, her husband wasn't there yet, but then he came back like 30 seconds or a minute later. And then she asked, where were you? Did you get lost or something? And he's like, well, actually, I did, but I recognized me. And so he saw me at the toilet. So he was following me around so he can get back to where we were at. And then I'm like, wow, we literally had just met like, a minute or something like that, but he recognized who I was. And so in order for him to get back, he like was following me, what I was doing and stuff like that, so he can find his way back regarding an aspect of it. But the beauty of all that moment was the connection I made with these two individuals. We spent a couple of hours together, just, waiting till we go in. And it was just another true moment of a connection with strangers who no longer became strangers. And it's just a reminder of when we allow ourselves to be open and knowing that the spirit is already in us, we bring that energy with us. And I made these incredible connections with these individuals. And I'm just so, grateful for that experience I had with them. Even to the point where we got up to the line to get our tickets, they called them up to get theirs. And they're like, no, 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 he's with us. And so I got my ticket with them. That's the connection I made with them. And then we went our separate ways. Then we met up later on, at Wimbledon. And then they introduced me to their kids, because they mentioned to me about their kids were going to be there later. And apparently they told their kids about me. And so it's just another way of recognizing the experience we have. And so if anything, just remember that our journey has already been set. Holy Spirit is with us. And it's important for us to not let detours get in our way. Trust in our path. And we do that by trusting in Holy Spirit, allowing Spirit guide us. If we do that, we will have these remarkable experiences. And my experience, it was not about seeing the landmark and all that stuff. It was the incredible connections that I met with individuals who I've never met before. That was me for a long time, because all had to do with the path that Spirit has set for me, for my journey. And that is my talk.
Woke up my eyes to see, woke up my head to beat, woke up my heart to be free, woke up our world, you and me. I've opened up my heart, I'm at the start. I save the world, I save the world, I save